This is my ranking of the longest single-player games of the last 5 years that I've played, based purely on my personal experience. Each one is placed from masterpiece to trash depending on how long the content lasts, how engaging the progression stays, and how well the game holds up over a full playthrough. Let's get straight into the list. Crimson Desert builds its adventure around a massive open world filled with wars, rival groups, hidden locations, and an endless number of activities beyond the main story. Exploration plays a huge role, with side quests, hunting, fishing, resource gathering, settlement management, puzzles, and random encounters constantly pulling me away from major objectives. The world feels active, with towns, travelers, and events creating the sense that things are happening even when I am not directly involved. Character progression unlocks new combat skills, movement abilities, and traversal tools that make exploring distant regions much more rewarding. Large-scale battles, challenging bosses, and countless optional activities keep introducing new things to do throughout the journey. The sheer amount of content and freedom on offer places this game in my excellent tier. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chornobyl focuses on exploring the zone, where every trip across the map comes with the risk of running into mutants, armed groups, environmental hazards, and unexpected encounters. I spent a lot of time managing supplies, repairing weapons, dealing with radiation, and deciding which loot was worth carrying because resources never felt unlimited. The world rarely holds my hand, so reaching an objective often meant surviving long journeys through dangerous territory filled with threats around every corner. Combat is brutal and punishes mistakes quickly, making preparation and careful positioning far more important than rushing into fights. The story slowly unfolds through different factions, hidden secrets, and difficult choices that reveal more about the zone and the forces trying to control it. This game secures a spot in my great tier. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous revolves around leading a crusade against a demonic invasion while traveling across a massive fantasy world filled with quests, companions, and difficult decisions. The story grows from local conflicts into a war against powerful forces from the abyss, with major choices shaping relationships, events, and parts of the journey. Character customization is one of its biggest strengths, offering an enormous number of classes, abilities, and build options that can completely change how battles play out. The Mythic Path system adds another layer by granting unique powers and opening exclusive story developments tied to my decisions. Alongside party-based combat, I also managed armies and fought strategic battles on the world map during the Crusade. The sheer amount of content kept introducing new possibilities, securing its place in my excellent tier. Metaphor ReFantazio follows a race for a kingdom's throne while traveling across a fantasy world filled with political conflict, discrimination, and growing threats. The story unfolds through a series of deadlines that push the journey forward while giving me time to strengthen bonds, improve attributes, complete side quests, and prepare for major objectives. Between cities, I traveled aboard the Gauntlet Runner, taking on optional content and exploring new locations. Combat blends real-time actions with turn-based encounters, while the archetype system allows characters to switch classes and unlock new abilities through progression. Dungeons introduce different challenges, enemy weaknesses, and objectives that encourage experimenting with party setups. After everything it offers, this belongs in my masterpiece tier. Baldur's Gate 3 builds its story around a desperate search for a cure, but the journey quickly grows into a much larger conflict involving powerful forces, ancient secrets, and the fate of entire regions. The story constantly reacts to my decisions, with quests, characters, and future events changing based on choices made during conversations, exploration, and major story moments. I spent a huge amount of time talking to companions, learning their personal stories, and deciding how their journeys would unfold. Combat uses turn-based battles where positioning, environmental interactions, spells, and creative thinking often matter more than raw strength. Character building offers a massive number of classes, abilities, and combinations that can completely change how encounters play out. Few games offer this much freedom, which is why it stands proudly in my masterpiece tier. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is an action RPG where I travel across a massive world with Cloud and his party while tracking Sephiroth and learning more about the planet, the life stream, and the people around me. I spent over 200 hours exploring regions, clearing side quests, hunting optional bosses, and taking part in a huge variety of activities spread across the map. Combat combines real-time action with tactical commands, letting me switch characters, build materia combinations, and use powerful synergy abilities during battles. The story expands the journeys of Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and the rest of the cast with emotional moments, personal struggles, and larger mysteries that continue to grow as the adventure moves forward. After everything it offers, this finds its place in my excellent tier. Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord builds its experience around rising from a small mercenary leader to a powerful ruler capable of shaping the future of Calradia. I spent much of my time recruiting soldiers, training armies, trading between towns, taking contracts, joining wars, and slowly expanding my influence across the map. Battles can involve hundreds of troops at once, with formations, cavalry charges, archers, and siege warfare all playing major roles in victory. Outside of combat, I managed settlements, formed alliances, passed laws, married into noble families, and built a clan that could control multiple parties across the world. The sandbox structure creates a different story every playthrough, with kingdoms constantly fighting over territory and power. After countless battles and political struggles, this game settles into my great tier. Satisfactory begins with a simple task of gathering resources by hand, but it quickly grows into building enormous automated factories that can stretch across huge sections of the map. Progression constantly unlocks new machines, tools, transportation systems, and production chains, turning basic materials into increasingly complex products. I spent countless hours expanding factory lines, improving efficiency, connecting distant outposts, and solving production problems that appeared as new goals demanded more resources. Exploration remains important throughout the journey, with caves, rare materials, research items, and hostile creatures encouraging me to leave the factory behind and venture into the world. The satisfaction comes from watching systems that once required constant attention eventually run on their own while supporting even larger projects. This easily secures its place in my excellent tier. Mass Effect Legendary Edition begins with Commander Shepard being drawn into a galaxy-spanning conflict that grows across 3 connected games where every major decision can influence characters, missions, and future events. I spent a huge amount of time building relationships with squad members, exploring planets, completing side missions, and making choices that carried consequences throughout the trilogy. Combat evolves from game to game, with later entries offering smoother gunplay, better abilities, and more refined squad management. The story remains the biggest highlight, introducing different species, political conflicts, ancient threats, and difficult decisions that rarely have perfect outcomes. Seeing past choices return hours later or even in the next game made the journey feel much more personal. Few trilogies deliver this level of continuity, placing it in my excellent tier. My time at Sandrock builds its adventure around rebuilding a struggling desert town by gathering resources, crafting machines, and completing projects that help the community grow over time. I spent most of my time expanding my workshop, taking commissions, upgrading equipment, and turning simple materials into increasingly complex creations needed for both story quests and town requests. Resource gathering plays a major role, with mining, scavenging, farming, and exploration all feeding into the crafting loop. The story stays active throughout the journey with threats to the town, environmental challenges, and mysteries involving some of its residents. Building relationships is just as important, unlocking new quests, rewards, activities, and romance options with a large cast of characters. The steady progression and constant variety of tasks earn this game a place in my great tier. Elden Ring sends me across the lands between with very little guidance, leaving exploration, discovery, and survival entirely in my hands. Every region hides new bosses, dungeons, weapons, quests, and secrets that can easily be missed if I stay focused only on the main path. I spent countless hours wandering into places I was probably not supposed to be yet, finding powerful gear, uncovering hidden areas, and taking on enemies that pushed my skills to their limits. Combat rewards patience, timing, and learning attack patterns, while the huge variety of weapons, spells, summons, and builds allows for completely different playstyles. The story unfolds through encounters, item descriptions, and the world itself, encouraging me to piece everything together on my own. This easily claims a place in my masterpiece tier. UFO 50 presents a collection of 50 fully playable games from a fictional game studio, with each one offering its own mechanics, goals, and style while sharing the look and feel of classic 80s releases. I spent a lot of time jumping between genres, finding platformers, RPGs, strategy games, exploration adventures, puzzle games, and even some ideas that feel completely unique. Unlike most retro collections, these are not short mini-games, and many of them can keep me busy for hours before reaching the credits. One moment I was exploring dangerous underwater areas, and the next I was managing resources, solving puzzles, or discovering hidden secrets in a completely different game. The variety is what kept me coming back, with every cartridge feeling like a new experience. This easily finds its place in my excellent tier. Caves of Qud offers a science fantasy adventure built around exploration, survival, character progression, and uncovering the secrets hidden throughout a strange and unpredictable world. I spent much of my time experimenting with different character builds, choosing unusual mutations, discovering new abilities, and finding creative ways to deal with whatever the game decided to throw at me. Exploration constantly rewarded curiosity, with ancient ruins, hidden locations, rare artifacts, and unexpected encounters waiting far beyond the main path. The world is packed with factions, creatures, and cultures that help make every journey feel different. Combat can be brutal, often forcing me to think carefully about my abilities, equipment, and escape options before committing to a fight. The depth of its systems and endless possibilities place this game in my excellent tier. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom had me constantly changing plans because every trip across Hyrule seemed to uncover a cave, side quest, puzzle, or hidden location worth exploring. I spent a huge amount of time traveling between the surface, the Sky Islands, and the massive underground depths, with each area offering its own challenges and discoveries. The Ultra Hand ability let me build vehicles, flying machines, and all kinds of creations that completely changed how I approached exploration and traversal. Fuse added even more freedom by allowing me to combine weapons and materials into powerful or sometimes ridiculous combinations. The story slowly reveals what happened to Zelda, while a growing threat spreads across the kingdom, leading to several memorable moments throughout the journey. This adventure belongs in my masterpiece tier. Valheim builds every step of its progression around surviving, exploring, and growing stronger in a massive world inspired by Norse mythology. I spent a lot of time gathering resources, building settlements, crafting equipment, and preparing for dangerous expeditions into regions filled with stronger enemies and harsher conditions. Progression is tied closely to exploration, with each new biome introducing different materials, challenges, and boss fights that unlock the next stage of the adventure. Sailing became a huge part of the experience, as I built ships and crossed vast oceans searching for new lands, valuable resources, and opportunities to expand my base. Whether I was hunting creatures, upgrading gear, or constructing larger settlements, there always seemed to be another objective waiting ahead. This adventure earns its place in my excellent tier. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth combines a story about family, redemption, and second chances with a huge amount of RPG content spread across Hawaii and Japan. I spent most of my time exploring busy city streets, completing side activities, building relationships with party members, and taking on everything from serious crime syndicates to some of the strangest situations the series has ever created. The turn-based combat is much deeper than before, allowing me to move around battlefields, combine abilities with teammates, and experiment with different jobs that completely change how each character plays. Between major story moments, I also managed a tropical island, tackled dozens of side quests, and uncovered personal stories through companion interactions. The mix of heartfelt character moments and outstanding RPG systems places this game in my excellent tier. RoadCraft puts me in charge of restoring disaster-stricken regions by clearing obstacles, rebuilding damaged infrastructure, and creating routes that allow supplies and vehicles to move again. I spent most of my time operating heavy machinery, hauling materials, constructing roads, placing bridges, and figuring out how to reconnect areas cut off by floods, mud, and destruction. Each task required using the right vehicle for the job, whether it was a crane moving large objects, a bulldozer clearing debris, or a dump truck helping rebuild damaged paths. Progression comes from gradually opening new routes and completing larger reconstruction projects across the map. While driving remains important, the focus is on reshaping the environment itself rather than simply overcoming it. The satisfaction of restoring entire regions earns this game a place in my great tier. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition combines large-scale exploration, real-time combat, and character progression across the massive alien world of Mira. I spent a huge amount of time surveying new regions, completing side missions, strengthening party members, and uncovering the secrets scattered across landscapes that felt enormous, even by open-world RPG standards. Exploration constantly rewarded curiosity, with strange creatures, hidden landmarks, and new discoveries waiting far beyond the main objectives. Combat blends real-time action with strategic ability management, encouraging me to chain attacks, coordinate with teammates, and build characters around different classes and skills. One of the biggest highlights was unlocking S.T.A.L.K.E.R, powerful mechs that transformed both exploration and combat by letting me travel faster and take on larger threats. This adventure finds its place in my excellent tier. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 puts a huge emphasis on living in a realistic medieval world where reputation, choices, and everyday actions can shape how people respond to me. I spent much of my time traveling across Bohemia, taking on quests, solving problems through dialogue, and deciding whether to rely on persuasion, stealth, or combat. The story continues Henry's journey and gradually pulls him into larger political conflicts, while side quests often feel just as detailed and memorable as the main narrative. Combat rewards patience and skill, with timing, stamina management, weapon positioning, and proper training all playing important roles in surviving fights. Beyond adventuring, I could spend hours crafting potions, forging equipment, gambling, improving skills, or simply exploring the countryside. The depth and immersion throughout the journey place this game in my excellent tier. That's my ranking of the longest single-player games I've played. Some lasted for hundreds of hours, but only a few stayed engaging the whole way through. Thanks for watching.